I've been a little down in the dumps lately, and I think that's something a lot of us can understand, except those people who are just constantly in a state of bliss. I hate those people. I hate those people. When I am feeling down, though, I often turn to things I love to help me get the pep back in my step, so to speak. This time, however, I felt it gave me the perfect opportunity to share with you a game that I love. I want to share with you one of my favorite games of all time, Grim Fandango. And buckle up, because I have a long personal story for you. When I was a kid, a lot of the games I played were actually demos of games. My dad, thanks to his job, would often go around to small stores called a news agency. Those were stores in Australia that sold school supplies and office supplies, snacks, and their biggest seller was probably lottery tickets, newspapers, and magazines. If you wanted the daily paper or wanted to see if you won the lottery, you'd often go to a news agency. However, my dad was friends with a lot of the owners of these places and knew that they would often throw out unsold magazines. My dad, of course, also knew about my love of video games and technology and would often take any and all unsold magazines from these news agencies and give them to me. I'd spend hours reading both at home, both of them at home and at school, but the big highlight for me was the free demo disc they came with. These discs were often filled with all sorts of really cool things like interviews with the game developers, wallpapers, screensavers, if anybody even remembers those, and so on. But the main reason you wanted them were for the cool demos for upcoming or recently released games. It's thanks to these demo discs that I learned about all sorts of games that I love to this day. But one game really stood out to me, and that of course was Grim Fandango. I'd spend hours replaying the demo. I was sucked into this world unlike anything I'd ever seen before. The setting and the music was amazing. The voice acting was funny and just so on. I remember the demo was a timed demo that pretty much let you play a select part of the game for about 5 minutes or so before ending. I'd try so hard to play quicker and quicker to see if I could find something new. There, of course, wasn't anything new since there was only just this small slice of the game, but still. My imagination ran wild at the time. I'd sometimes just sit and stare and wonder to myself, I wonder what's behind these tents. I bet we'll get to explore the parade, or maybe I get to go out on the highway ramp, and if we did, what is out there? I can't truly express how delighted I was with that demo. Still, as the time passed, I never got my hands on the full game. In fact, I'd search Electronics Boutique from time to time, but I'd never find it. All I had was the magazine article, the demo, and my memories, as the weeks turned into months, and those months into years. About 5 or so years later, I was with my family as we went to a Toys R Us to look for Christmas gifts. I was on a mission to find a present for my younger brother. After picking something out for him, I did a little browsing around for myself just to pass the time when I entered into the video game section. Most of it was junk, and overpriced junk at that, but as I looked around, something caught my eye. Tucked away behind all the other games was a big box PC game, and truth be told, this caught my attention because big box PC games were pretty much dead at that point. Companies had started switching to smaller boxes, or even just a plastic case. On top of the box was actually covered in a thick layer of dust, but when I moved the games in front of it away, I almost couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was a new in-box copy of Grim Fandango, still with its original price tag from 1998. I was shaking as I picked up the box, and heck, I dare say, I even started to cry a little. I put the things down I was holding and took off with this box in hand. I ran through the store searching for either my mum or my dad, and when I found my dad, I begged him to buy the game for me for Christmas. I must have looked quite insane to my dad, standing in the middle of a Toys R Us, just rambling like a maniac, out of breath from all the running around and flailing my arms around more than Stan from Monkey Island. Eventually, my mum walked up to my dad, and after a little talking with each other, they agreed to buy me this game for Christmas. However, they did have one condition. I wasn't allowed to have the game until Christmas Day. I agreed, and for the next month, every day after dinner, I would sit by our Christmas tree, holding the now wrapped up box of Grim Fandango, thinking about all the amazing things that awaited me. Of course, the big day eventually arrived, and I tore open the wrapping and spent way too much time just staring at this box before finally installing it on my PC. And let me tell you, pal, I was one happy guy. Everything in that moment in time was perfect. The years I waited to play the game were well worth it. I'll never forget how happy I was, because to this day, I still feel that way. We all have that one game we play when we're feeling down, and for me, it's this game. Much like I did with Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, I didn't really do a should you play it. In fact, I just called it I called it you should play it, because that is the answer to the question of should you play it. It's an absolute resounding yes, you should play Grim Fandango, especially if you like point-and-click adventure games. In fact, if you do like point-and-click adventure games and haven't played this game yet, what are you doing? Go and play Grim Fandango! Still, I'm going to do what I always do with these types of videos. I'll still run through the game's story and gameplay. However, don't worry, I'm not really blinded by the nostalgia or my love for this game. There are a few things about it I'm not a fan of, and we will discuss that when I get to it. But of course, to do any of that, we need to take a look back to LucasArts' 1998 release of Grim Fandango, or at least the 2015 Double Fine's Productions remaster of this game, since it's the only version of the game I have, and I will be playing with the original tank controls in the original look of the game. So don't worry, I'm not really doing any of the remastered stuff. Now, as always, I must bring up the old spoiler stamp, because I will be spoiling the entirety of the main story. I will be cutting out little bits here and there, which are just puzzles that get you items for other puzzles and so on and so forth. So if you're watching and you do know this game and you're like, hey, wait a second, he cut out the part where you get the gate for the petrified forest, now you know why. I'm just trying to tell a story here, okay? Anyway, let's get on with the show. We begin our story with our lovely new friend and travel agent, Manuel Calavera, or Manny as he prefers, as he works with his new client, Celso. Celso has recently died and come to the land of the dead. It's Manny's job to help Celso find a travel package to help him navigate his way through the land of the dead. Depending on how well Celso lived in life, and also how much money he was buried with, it factors into which travel package he qualifies for. Each one of these packages will help Celso navigate his way to the 9th Underworld, the land of eternal rest. He could get there with a fancy sports car speeding through the streets, or perhaps kick back and enjoy a lovely oceanic cruise, or if he was a really good boy, he might even be eligible for a ticket on the number 9 train, a train which would take him, and all other souls, to the 9th underworld in 4 hours. However, it appears Celso doesn't qualify for any of those things, but Manny is a professional and is able to get Celso hooked up with the Excelsior line, one of the best walking sticks on the market. Oh yeah, what a lucky duck Celso is. After seeing Celso on his way, Manny returns to his office in the DOD, the Department of Death, with a heavy sigh. He knows he'll never work off his own time here with all the terrible clients like Celso. Clients who don't qualify for anything good. Manny yearns for the old days when he was the best travel agent with all the best clients. He really wishes he could just get a big break, and at that moment, he gets mail. Ooh, what could it be? It's an urgent memo from his boss telling all employees that there had been a mass poisoning in the land of the living, and that all Reapers need to get to the site and get a client, and only the quickest will get the best. Manny's spirit is lifted once more as he thinks to himself that this is his chance. He heads on down to the parking garage, only to see his personal driver leaving. Manny races after him, but he's long gone. He searches around the garage until he finds a spirit of the land named Glottis, who explains that a co-worker and rival of Manny's, Domino, told Manny's driver that he could take the rest of the day off. Oh, that dirty rat! Domino's always getting the best clients. He's always stepping on Manny's toes. His bony toes. Manny needs to hurry and find a new driver as quickly as possible, and asks Glottis if he'd like to be the new driver. Glottis is extremely excited by this, since he only has one purpose in life since he is a spirit of the land, and that one purpose in life is to drive cars, something he actually hasn't done yet, he only just fixes them. Still, the cars are a little too small for Glottis, so he tells Manny the only way for him to fit is to, quote, let out the seams, but in order to do that, he'll need a work order signed by the boss himself. No problem, right? Of course not. We just gotta go back upstairs and see if the boss will sign
Didn't I say no interruptions today?
Oh. Well, it appears El Jefe isn't in the mood to sign anything. However, while going outside for a quick smoke break, Manny notices something rather strange. A makeshift rope made out of ties. And rather than do what I'm pretty sure you or I would do, which is to say, ignore it, Manny climbs it. And what does he see? That the boss isn't even in his office right now. He snuck out using that makeshift rope. He set his computer to automatically tell his secretary Ava that he's busy and not to be disturbed. That's why he couldn't sign the thing earlier. Well, a slight adjustment here will make it seem like he's telling Ava to just sign whatever. Perfect. Now we run back outside, back down the rope, back inside, and up to Ava, and she will now happily sign our work order. Now Manny can finally go to the poisoning. Glottis speeds his way into the land of the living. However, as they're driving, Manny spots Domino passing by with the perfect client, a nun. Ugh, damn. Once at the diner, Manny finds the only person left, a rather small, angry man named Bruno, who doesn't want any fancy travel packages, he just wants to get some rest. It seems, however, that even if Bruno did want something better, he's out of luck, because the best thing Manny could swing was a coffin and just mailing him out inside the coffin packed with foam. While getting Bruno ready for shipping, Manny's boss pops his head in and tells him, rather angrily, that he's been slacking off too much and not making enough sales, and if he doesn't get a premium client soon, he will be fired. and thus have no way to work off his own time, and never be able to move on to the land of eternal rest. This, as one might understand, upsets Manny, and so he decides to pull no punches and go all out by stealing one of Domino's incoming clients. Now, it takes a little bit of doing, but after some doing and some hard thinking and some even harder drinking... Wait a second, where does that liquid even go? Huh. Anyway, Manny is able to intercept an incoming client memo, Mercedes Colomar, who sadly passed away of chickenpox. She's been doing a lot of volunteer work in her living life and sounds like the perfect premium client we've been searching for. Manny gets ready and meets Glottis in the... What in the world is that? Well, it seems Glottis did a little bit more than let out those seams. He turned the company car into a hot rod. But hey, if it can get Manny around faster, then so be it. He hops into the bone wagon, and the two race towards the land of the living, blasting past Domino on their way. Manny reaps Mercedes, and the two return to his office. In the office, Meche, as she prefers to be called, and Manny go over her case file. He assures her that she's the perfect fit for the best package they have. Only when Manny looks up her case file, something's wrong. It appears she qualifies for... nothing. Nothing at all. That's weird. Confused, Manny decides to question Meche about her own personal history. She's never stolen, never made enough money to be taxed due to her countless hours of volunteer work, never even littered. She's clean, and she should be a shoo-in for a ticket on the number 9 train. Slightly saddened and a lot confused by this turn of events, Manny excuses himself and tries to figure out what's going on. However, he doesn't get too far as his boss bursts out of his office and pulls Manny inside. The boss lays it all out for Manny. He knows about the car, he knows about Glottis working, and the theft of Meche's case from Domino, and he is not happy about it, which I can kind of understand. I mean, if you were the boss of a company and found out one of your employees stole from another employee, I'm pretty sure you wouldn't be happy about it as well. But anyway, Manny doesn't care. He tells his boss and Domino that he believes the DoD is crooked. However, his boss ignores that comment and tells him that he's going to call Meche into the room and explain the whole situation and demand an apology from Manny. But when he tells his secretary Ava to bring Meche into the room, she explains that she'd already left the building because she had a long walk ahead of her and she wanted to get started. This sends Manny's boss into an even further rage as he screams at him, telling him that Meche didn't need to walk anywhere because she had a ticket on the number 9 train. This, of course, was the last straw, and his boss escorts Manny, I say escorts, probably drags him down into the garage and locks him in a small shack until he can figure out what to do with him. After a little time passes, Manny bangs on the door and demands to be let out. Then, somebody appears. Manny asks who this person is, and they tell him that they were once in a very same position that he finds himself in now. Then the strange person explains exactly what they're going to do when they come back down here, and that's sprout him. Manny doesn't know what that is, and the man explains that sprouting is when you're shot with a deadly toxin that spreads throughout your bones, causing them to sprout flowers until you die. Again. And eventually you'll fade away into nothing more than just flowers. This, of course, doesn't exactly sit well with Manny, who tells the man that he wants to escape and prove that the DoD is corrupt, and to get his old job back, but to do that he'll need to find Meche. The man, happy with this news, unlocks the door and welcomes Manny into his revolution. This man is Salvador Limones, and he is the head of an organization known as the Lost Souls Alliance, or LSA for short. It consists of, well, just himself and Ava? Huh, I would have never guessed that. Their goal is to uncover the corruption within the DoD, and now they'll need their new member's help, Manny. Manny agrees to help them in exchange for Salvador's help to get out of town so he can search for Meche. What Salvador requires is winged messengers for his army. This, of course, being pigeons, since they're fantastic at carrying messages, and thankfully, Manny knows just where to get them. After a quick little trip up to the roof of the DoD and scaring some pigeons away, Manny returns to Salvador with 2 eggs. And with this, Manny is now free as Salvador leads him through a hidden tunnel from the city of Almaro to the outskirts of the petrified forest. He explains to Manny that he must make his way to the town of Rubalcaba, and there he must wait for Meche, since anybody who wants to reach the Ninth Underworld must travel by ship across the Sea of Lament. Meche will be there, however it might take a little bit of time to wait. Manny tells Salvador that he'll wait for as long as it takes, which catches Salvador's ear. He asks if Manny's in love with Meche, and Manny replies that love is for the living, and that she is just his ticket out of the land of the dead. After that, the two part ways. Now in the petrified forest, Manny finds Glottis of all people, who appears to have been fired after helping Manny. He appears quite upset about the whole thing and explains that without his job, he'll die. Because he is a spirit of the land and his only purpose is fixing machines and driving them, and now that he can't do that, he'll simply just get sick and pass away. Manny assures Glottis that everything will be alright and that the two can stick together. He can still be his friend and his driver, especially since the Bone Wagon is also here. What a coincidence. Back at the DoD building in El Marrow, an unknown man talks with Domino and Manny's boss. He asks how it was that Manny was able to steal a client away from Domino, since they gave Domino all the best resources and the best clients. Manny's boss tells this man named Hector that Domino isn't to blame and that he did nothing wrong. Hector agrees and then sprouts Manny's boss. Hector then places Domino in charge of the DoD. It seems that this Hector man is behind all of the corruption in the DoD. Back in the petrified forest, Manny and Glottis give the Bone Wagon a little upgrade and kill some fiery demon beavers who make dams out of the unfortunate souls who travel the land of the dead on foot, and eventually make their way to Rubalcaba. In Rubalcaba, Manny runs into a familiar face, Celso. It appears he ended up here in this place because he got word, I don't know how, but he got word that his wife passed away not long after he did, and now he's here waiting for her. Manny tells him that he too is waiting for somebody, and if it's possible that he can get a job in the same place Celso now works at. But sadly, there aren't any openings. After Manny does a little bit more searching around and eventually speaks with the Dockmaster here in Rubalcaba, who's chatting with Glottis, he learns that Celso's wife had actually already been to Rubalcaba and left it after booking passage on a cruise ship with another man. Manny figures it's best to tell Celso, and he returns to him, giving him the bad news. However, Celso still loves his wife, and he leaves to find her, giving Manny his old job. After that, Manny settles in, waiting for Meche. A whole year has passed for Manny while waiting for Meche, and sadly, she hasn't turned up. However, in that time, Manny bought the place he did work at and turned it into Calavera Cafe, a lovely little cub. A lovely little cub. Oh, hey, look at that little cub over there. That's my kitty cat. Aw, so cute. What am I doing? Oh, a lovely little club and casino. As Manny stands outside smoking, his co-checker informs him that a woman is asking for him downstairs and that he'll really want to meet with her. Manny sighs and begins to head downstairs, noticing the person walking away. Before heading outside, Manny notices Glottis playing the piano and speaks with him briefly about how dead the cafe is tonight. Glottis agrees and explains that the Day of the Dead is bad for business, and after playing a little song for his best friend about the bone wagon, Manny quickly reads some communications from his old friend Salvador. It seems that things are getting much worse back in El Marrow, and it appears to be the doing of a man named Hector Lemans. Once he's finished reading, Manny finally heads outside to speak with whomever came to speak with him. And lo and behold, it's Meche. Meche asks why he never came looking for her, and Manny explains that he had been, but as he steps closer to her, she turns to reveal that it isn't actually Meche, but some sort of ugly crow. An Ugro, if you will. It flies away, and Manny hops onto a telescope to watch where it goes. And what should he spot on the docks but the real Meche being dragged around by Domino? It appears he's dragging her onto a ship. Manny runs down to the docks and tries to board, however, Meche appears and throws a bottle of champagne at him, knocking him into the water. Old Velasco, the dockmaster, fishes Manny out of the water, and Manny explains to him that he needs to follow that ship. Velasco tells him that that ship was headed for Porto Zapato, which is on the other side of the world, and the only ship sailing out that way is the ship currently behind him, the SS Limbo. Manny begs to get on that ship, but Velasco turns him down, explaining that the only way on board is to already be an actual crew member, and sadly, they don't need any crew right now. Well, they do have one spot open that Glottis would be perfect for if he had the tools, but Manny is out of luck. Unless one crew member named Naranja doesn't turn up for his shift. It seems he hasn't checked in yet for some reason, but Manny asks if that guy doesn't show up for work, if he could take his place. Velasco explains that he could, but he'd need to be part of the union since it's only union work. Manny rubs his bony chin and thanks Velasco for the information. It seems to follow Meche, we need to first get Glottis some tools and somehow join the union. But how? Well, thankfully, Manny has made a lot of friends over this past year, and one of those people is Charlie, a crooked little weasel of a man who always has some sort of scam going. Manny has it on good authority that Charlie makes a pretty good fake Union Club membership card. However, old Charlie isn't about to give one to Manny, unless we do him a little tiny favor. And what is this tiny little favor? Well, nothing major. It's just stealing back cash from a local mobster / casino owner, Maximino. Now, Manny is crafty and is able to break into Maximino's safe, but it only requires him to First, gain access to the VIP room, which you can now do thanks to Charlie. Second, tell Glottis we have that VIP room card, which triggers his alcohol and gambling addictions. Third, lock the casino waiter into a small pantry, which causes him to freak out and drop a jar onto his head, knocking him out because he apparently has claustrophobia. Fourth, make Glottis enter the kitchen to look for the waiter because he's getting sick of waiting for his drink, and then make him drink an entire barrel of wine, and then free said waiter as well. Fifth, open up the wine barrel that Glottis now drank dry, and climb inside and wait until the empty barrel is taken down to the wine cellar. 6. Use the forklift inside the elevator to access a secret room which is located between the kitchen and the wine cellar. And then finally, we now have access to Charlie's briefcase full of cash. Except, no. Not only does it not have Charlie's name on it, but it has the initials HL. And it's not filled with cash, it's filled with golden tickets for the number 9 train. What the heck is going on here? I mean, that's a whole lot of tickets. Regardless, Manny takes the briefcase and walks out of the casino, only to be stopped at gunpoint by Charlie, who takes back his briefcase, his in quotation marks, his briefcase, but thankfully, he keeps up his end of the bargain and gives Manny a union membership card. Well, that is one thing taken care of. The next is getting a spot on the ship, which isn't going to be much of an issue because we actually know where the crewman is. He's at the tattoo parlor getting a sweet tat. Now, Manny, by the way, he's getting it directly on the bone, so that's gotta hurt. That's really gotta hurt. Now, sadly, Manny isn't able to chat with the man, but what he is able to do is the next best logical thing, which is, of course, spiking his drink, which makes him pass out, stealing his dog tags, and then throwing those dog tags on a recently sprouted person in the morgue, which tricks the mortician into calling old Velasco and letting him know that the sailor is dead. May he rest in peace. Now, I don't know about you, but that is how I always get my jobs. How do you think I became a YouTuber in the first place, Anyway, with a union card now in hand and a job lined up, Manny is ready to set sail. But first, we need to get some tools for Glottis so he can come with us. Now, thankfully the tools aren't much of an issue. Manny is actually friends with some of the hard-working sea bees down on the docks. He heads on down there and has a chat with the leader of the bees and asks if they'd mind if he could borrow some of their tools. However, before he can get an answer, it seems as though the sea bees are having a bit of an issue. The union they all work for, the same union Manny is now a member of, is actually corrupt and run by gangsters and thugs, and they're making it hard to earn an honest living, and so Manny suggests they just strike. The leader of the Sea Bees thinks that this is a fantastic idea and begins to strike. But this sadly upsets the union and the police chief, who just so happens to be on their payroll. So he heads on down to the dock and arrests the leader of the Sea Bees and tosses him in jail. Without him leading the strike, Manny won't be able to borrow their tools. And this upsets Manny, and he's at a bit of a loss on what to do. And so to cheer himself up, he pops on over to the Blue Casket, a lovely little place where he can air out all of his frustrations by doing a little open mic slam poetry sesh.
Good evening. I like to read a poem.
Dig this real.
Wallow. Can you see what I'm smelling? Grotesque. The end. Gracias. Muchísimas gracias.
After getting out all of his frustrations in what, in my opinion anyways, is the greatest improv poetry session ever, Manny bumps into his old friend Lola, who is hoping to get proof that Maximino's girlfriend is cheating on him with his own lawyer. Why, you might be asking? Well, that's because Lola is in love with Maximino and wants to show him how bad his girlfriend is. Completely normal. Manny and Lola catch up a little bit before she snaps a pic of Max's lawyer, Nick Vargo, and his girlfriend having a little lipless kiss. Ooh, naughty, naughty, naughty. Lola takes off, and Nick, knowing what would happen if Max saw the photo, chases after her, leaving Manny and Olivia alone. The two of them have a little chat, and Manny even convinces Olivia to do her very own slam poetry, but she just steals Manny's. And hey, if you can't beat the best, why not just copy them? Am I right? Which is why I am super excited to announce I'll be starting my very own content farming channel. Now you too can rewatch all of your favorite Elder Scrolls and Fallout content creators' videos, but on my channel. Isn't that great? I am of course kidding. I would never do that. In fact, I suggest you go out and support some of your favorite YouTubers. Go rewatch their old channel, old channel. Go rewatch their old videos and leave a comment on them and give it a little like. And trust me, they will love that. I promise. Anyway, while I was waffling on, Manny remembered that he actually needs a lawyer to help bust the CB leader out of jail. So he heads on over to the VIP lounge in Max's casino to speak with him. Now, Nick isn't a fan of Manny. In fact, he rather despises Manny and refuses to help him. But you see, Nick is a corrupted mobster, and there's only one way to deal with their type, and Manny knows just how to do it. Blackmail. So Manny gets to work, stealing all of Nick's incoming mail, and paints each one pure black so he's totally unable to read them. Oh yes, Manny, you are a smart cookie, you little devil you. Oh. Now if Nick wants us to stop, he has to help us. Now Manny approaches Nick and... Whisper. What? Oh, could you just excuse me for a moment? What did you say? Whisper, fake whispering sounds. Ooh, this is whispering. Uh-huh. This is fake whispering. I'm doing a fake whisper thing. What do you mean, read a dictionary? I don't see what this has to do with anything. Blackmail. The action treated as a criminal offense of demanding payment or another benefit from someone in return for not revealing, compromising, or damaging information about them. Oh, yeah. I'm glad you told me that, because, man, and I'll tell you what, I'm glad I'm not doing this live, because I would have sounded so stupid. I'll just make sure to edit all of this out, so, I mean, hopefully I remember to edit it out, but thank you very much. Okay. Manny gets to work trying to blackmail Nick, and as luck would have it, he knows the perfect person to turn to. Lola. That photo she took earlier would be perfect now, if only we could find her. Manny searched up, and Manny searched down. He looked in a giant cat litter box, his own casino, and even down on the docks. But alas, Lola was nowhere to be found. However, just as Manny was about to give up, he remembered the telescope from earlier and went up to have a look. And lo and behold, somebody was at the old lighthouse. So Manny rushed on over to check it out. And sadly, he finds Lola. She's been sprouted by Nick. She tells Manny with her dying breath where the photo is before the flowers consume her and blow away in the wind. Manny gets the photo from its hidden spot and uses it to blackmail Nick into getting the CB's leader out of jail. But before the two part ways, Manny slugs Nick in the skull with a mean right hook. Nick laughs about Lola, but Manny promises that while he doesn't have the time for it right now, that somebody will get him back for Lola. Manny then returns to the CBs and takes the tools they won't need right now because of their striking, grabs Glottis, and returns to Velasco, who lets the two board the SS Limbo so they can find Meche in Puerto Zapato. Sailing across the land of the dead, across the ocean of lament, it's a long undertaking, but hey, we're all dead, so time really isn't an issue here. An entire year has passed since Manny and Glottis left Rubicava. In that time, Manny has risen through the ranks to become the captain of the ship, which is no longer called the SS Limbo, but the Lola. As Manny finally closes into his destination of Puerto Zapato, a crew member approaches him, letting him know that some customs officials would like to board the ship and search around. Manny tells the young sailor that they're welcome to come aboard since they've got nothing to hide, and that sailor takes his leave. Just then, a pigeon lands on the deck right next to Manny and begins to speak with Salvador's voice. He hopes that this message arrives Manny in time. It appears that an agent in Puerto Zapato learned that Meche never actually made it to port and that she threw herself overboard on the crossing at a place known as the Pearl, which is a giant underwater pearl that can be seen from above. And what's worse is that the agent also uncovered that Hector knows about Manny, knows what he's doing, and has sent a group of assassins disguised as custom officials to sprout him. Oh no. Manny heads inside and is about to warn the crew, but it is far too late. Everybody has been sprouted, and as Manny continues further into the ship, the assassins spot him. However, Glottis grabs Manny and locks the two of them within the engine room. Finally, they're safe. Well, they would be safe, except the assassins are just gonna blow up the ship now, so, Manny needs to think of a way to get out of this situation, and fast. So you know what our clever, quick-thinking pal Manny does? He shears the boat in two and sails away. Yep, I don't feel like that needs to be elaborated on whatsoever. How perfect! Manny and Glottis sail towards the Pearl on a fourth of a ship until eventually the motor gives out and they sink into the briny, dark depths below. Thankfully, Manny is already dead, so, everything is fine. And even better than that, the Pearl is actually within walking distance. However, within the dark depths of this ocean are massive monsters just waiting for Manny and Glottis to leave the safety of the shunken. What am I, Sean Connery here? Leaving the shunken of the ship here. Junior? That was terrible. That was awful. Oh my god. Jeez. Sorry about that. Oh well. Where was I? Where was I? Oh yeah, okay. Within the dark depths of the ocean are massive monsters just waiting for Manny and Glottis to leave the safety of the sunken ship's light. Got it. Perfect, first time. It seems all hope is lost, but just then, a small blue-tinted man walks up to Manny and Glottis, commenting on the shipwreck and how it's just another reason why he hates boats. This is Geppetto, and let's just say he's been down here for a long, long time. Still, he offers to help Manny and Glottis out, and the three of them set off on a grand adventure, singing a song that is forever stuck in my head, and let me get it stuck in your head too. Feel free to sing along if you know the words.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
I hope you enjoyed that! Because now it's stuck in your head. And mine, because I had to edit this. Damn it! So Geppetto here has actually just been walking around in circles for Lord knows how long. He believes that the bright light that the pearl is making is actually just the moon, but with a little bit of help from Manny, we managed to get him on the right track as we all walk together to the pearl. At the pearl, Manny, Glottis, and Geppetto find a giant octopus and a submarine. It appears the octopus is lying in wait for people leaping overboard or something else, and then snatching them up. Manny has a feeling this and Meche just can't all be a coincidence, and wants to sneak aboard the submarine, but the octopus is very carefully watching everybody, but thanks to a little more help from Geppetto, Manny and Glottis are able to sneak aboard the submarine while the octopus is distracted. After a little while, the octopus driving the sub, yes, it is controlling it and driving it around, so please stop asking questions, save them to the end. He ends up at some strange base at the very edge of the world. Manny tells Glottis to wait outside the base while he sneaks in to look for Meche. Inside the base, and after 2 long years, Manny finally finds Meche. She's shocked. She's shocked. The Sean Connery was coming out again. She's shocked to see him, and Manny thanks her for the hit to the head with the champagne bottle a year ago as he was climbing aboard the ship. She tells him that he was walking into a trap and she was actually trying to save him. Domino was using her as bait, and she didn't want him to end up a prisoner on this small island like she is. Manny looks around confused and asks if she's really actually a prisoner or if she's sharing a bunk with Domino. Meche is of course rather angry about this and slaps Manny just as Domino struts on in. Domino tells Manny he knew that he would eventually make his way to this place and was just waiting for him, because Domino has been put in charge of this island, but he wants to leave and return to El Marrow where all the action is. He wants Manny to take his place. Just then, Glottis walks in and explains that his skin was getting all pruny and he wanted to be dry. Domino sees him and opens a trap door. Glottis falls into the rapids below and sadly gets launched off the edge of the world. Manny gets mad, but before he can do anything, Domino knocks him out. When Manny wakes up, he finds himself on a small cart. A blonde-haired man that Manny has never met before turns to him and tells him that he's finally awake. It appears Domino has finally caught Salvador's Stormcloaks and is sending them to Hector's Imperial Legion to be executed. Whoa, hang on a sec. Nope, sorry. That was just a dream Manny was having. Manny actually wakes up, for real this time, and finds himself in a small office with 2 winged children. And yes, I will keep doing that Skyrim joke for as long as I live at any opportunity I get. The two children are crafting light bulbs out of a glowing coral. They're prisoners on this island like Meche. The reason they're locked up like this is because they like to bite Domino. Bite him hard. Manny promises to get them and Meche out of here, and as thanks, they give him his first weapon, a tiny hammer. Manny knows what to do with this and marches right into Domino's office, pulls out the tiny hammer, and Domino whips out his Sproutella gun before looking at the hammer and just laughing. Well, I guess we're gonna need a better plan, because that was the only plan I had. He just laughed at me. I guess Domino really knows how to cut directly to the bone. Thank you. Thank you. I'll be here for the rest of the video. Thanks. Thank you. You suck. What? Manny leaves Domino's office and talks with Meche. She's still very upset with what Manny said to her earlier, and she isn't ready to forgive him yet. But she does explain what made her leave the office all those years ago. She felt embarrassed, and he looked so sad, and she just couldn't stand it anymore, so she started her journey. She ended up in the petrified forest and spent an entire year lost there. A year she would rather just forget about. Eventually, she was found by Domino and used as bait. After that, Meche tells Manny that she actually has a plan to get off this island. However, she needs a gun. Manny's gun. But, of course, Manny doesn't have a gun, she just thinks he has one. So, Manny is gonna go and find Meche a gun. Outside, Manny runs into a group of people mining the glowing coral. That same glowing coral the kids were making light bulbs out of earlier. Domino has trapped all these people here, it seems, including Geppetto, and is forcing them to mine the coral. Man, what a scumbag! Manny walks over to talk with Geppetto and apologize for using him as bait earlier. He sort of accepts the apology, but not really, and after talking with him for a little bit longer, Manny learns that he actually has a Sproutella gun. Why he has this gun, how he got it, or where he's keeping it is probably questions best left unanswered. But Manny takes the gun and gives it to Meche, who then points it at Manny and forces him into Domino's office. It appears she hasn't really forgiven Manny and believes that he's actually working for Domino. Meche tells Domino that she'll shoot Manny if he doesn't let her leave the island. Domino, of course, doesn't care if Manny dies and tells Meche as much. She then trains the gun on Domino, now realizing her mistake, but Domino snatches the gun and drags Meche away, locking her into a safe. A big safe, not a small safe. That would be weird. Before returning to his office, Manny finally asks Domino what on earth is going on here. And Domino sighs and rolls his eyes. Well, I mean, he would roll his eyes if he had them, but anyway, he eventually lays everything out for Manny. Hector LeMans knew he couldn't exactly leave the land of the dead because of how evil he was in life. And he didn't exactly really want to work off his time, however long that would have been, so he made this life more comfortable. He started running the DoD in secret, and with the help of Domino, was able to con honest people out of their golden tickets and then use those real tickets to sell to other corrupt people so they could buy their way out of the land of the dead. People like Meche really did qualify for tickets, but the system was changed to make it seem like they didn't get anything. And if they did, they were given fake tickets. The poor and innocent people, like the ones Domino was the travel agent for anyways, were then tossed overboard at the Pearl and then trapped and forced into mining the glowing coral for just extra profit. Domino was sent to this island to be in charge of it, but he hates it here and he wants to return to El Morro and take over Hector's place when he finally leaves the land of the dead. That's why Manny is here to eventually take Domino's place, whether he wants to or not. We really do need to save these people, stop Domino and Hector, and make things right. It's time to escape. Manny finds the safe Meche is locked in, and using his amazing safe cracking skills, is able to break inside. Once inside, he shuts the door, locking himself in. Well, at least he's in here with Meche, who has forgiven him for everything. Still, Manny isn't out for the count just yet, and once again using those same expert safe cracking skills and a giant axe, is able to find and bust open a water pipe which is big enough for the two to escape out of and outside onto the beach. Once outside, Manny tells Meche to sneak back inside and free the kids and the workers, while he concentrates on finding a boat for them all to escape on. Thankfully, Manny finds a ship hanging by its anchor over the edge of the world, and just who should be messing around with the ship's motor to get it already working but Glottis. It seems when he went over the edge of the world, he landed on this ship, which is a coincidence, and also that the ship is hanging on by its anchor is another amazing coincidence. So, with a little help from a massive crane that also happens to be on this island, Manny is able to lift the ship back up and out, and everybody is able to get on board and sail away. However, Domino notices them leaving and sets off in his octopus-powered sub to stop them. Manny has no choice now but to fight Domino. Manny whips out his scythe and charges into battle and gets knocked on his butt straight away. Still, he gets up to try again. And again. And again. And again. Eventually, he is able to get the upper hand. Don't ask how, but Domino still knocks Manny back down on his butt. However, while of course doing his evil guy monologue, he doesn't notice the escape ship that is sailing towards them with its massive grinders. Manny takes cover as the ship collides with the sub and the grinders crush Domino. Manny is also about to share the same fate, but the two little children fly down and save him, then everybody sails off. After finally reaching land, trading in the boat for some sled dogs, and then spending the whole next year walking towards the gateway to the Ninth Underworld, Manny, along with Glottis and the other people rescued from Domino's Island, finally reach their destination. However, there is a slight problem. Without their rightful tickets, all of the people tricked by Hector and Domino can't actually cross over. Manny tries to explain this to the gatekeeper when Glottis passes out and falls off of the edge of the structure. Manny runs after his friend and finds him being cared for by tiny little Glottis-like spirits. They tell Manny that Glottis is very, very sick and he's actually dying. They explain that because Glottis hasn't been around cars or engines in over a year, he can't fulfill his purpose as a spirit of the land, and as such, is dying. Manny turns to a sick Glottis and asks why he didn't tell him that he was feeling sick, and Glottis explains that he didn't want to worry Manny. The little spirits tell the two that the only way to save Glottis is by traveling on something going really, really fast. Glottis then gets inspired, and after seeing a rundown gondola, he creates plans for a rocket-powered gondola before slipping into a coma. Manny asks the spirits if they're able to create what Glottis wrote, and thankfully, they can. With a little bit of help from Manny, of course. Manny then returns to the gatekeeper and once again tries to explain everything, and as he does, a number 9 train begins to pull into the station. The gatekeeper shows Manny what happens to those who try to buy their way out of the land of the dead. And as the train turns into a fiery demon train and leaps off the rails and into a fire pit below, Manny vows right there and then to return to El Marrow and get the people their golden tickets, and Meche joins him. He wants to set this right. Once the rocket-powered gondola is built, Glottis is strapped onto the top of it. Manny and Meche hop inside and launch themselves across the rails towards El Marrow. On the trip, Glottis wakes up out of his coma and, unsure of what's going on, freaks out and accidentally causes the rocket to crash into the ocean below, just outside of Rubalcaba. But don't worry, everybody is fine, except for the rocket-powered gondola. That thing is toast. While in Rubalcaba, Manny catches up with some old friends like the Dockmaster, Velasco, and Olivia from the Blue Casket. Velasco decides to leave Rubalcaba, and Olivia decides to actually tag along with Manny and Meche. And Glottis, of course. She wants to meet Salvador. Apparently, she has a bit of a crush on the man. And Manny even pays his respects to Lola in the lighthouse. After that, the crew hop into the old bone wagon which they left in Rubalcaba and speed back to El Marrow in record time. As they stare at El Marrow and its now neon-drenched skyline, Salvador's men find them and take them to the Lost Souls Alliance headquarters. There, they meet up with the big cheese himself, Salvador, who is very happy to see Manny once again, especially since he found Meche. However, this is a great day for him and the LSA because right now, as they speak, the organization is about to move against Hector and take him out for good. But just then, a man bursts into the room, slowly being consumed by flowers and screaming about a trap. He falls onto the floor and Salvador grabs an axe and brings it down on the man, killing him instantly. I'm just kidding. The guy is fine. He's already dead. In fact, Salvador just saved him. That would have been weird if Hector saved him. The man tells everybody that Hector knew what was going to happen and in fact set a trap for the LSA. This is another blow against the LSA and their efforts to get Hector out of El Marrow. Salvador decides that he's going to deal with this issue personally, and Olivia begs him to take her along because she's always wanted to join and serve Salvador. He gives her a nod and the two leave. However, all of this doesn't change Manny's plans, because he has to go and get back those tickets. And with a little help from Meche, of course, he gets a disguise, sneaks into Hector's casino, and up to the penthouse, where Manny gets to meet up with Celso, of all people. He actually found his wife, and here the two of them are together again, and happy. Good for Celso, you know? Because now it's time to convince him and his wife to blow all their life savings on a fake ticket to the 9th Underworld. Once a travel agent, always a travel agent. Manny does know that these tickets are fake, right? And what happens to those people with fake tickets? Right? Right? Did I miss something here? Nah, I'm kidding. I actually know that he thinks he's going to take down Hector, so the tickets will be of no use. But anyways, after convincing Celso and his wife to buy a ticket, this is able to get Hector's eye, and he tries to hire Manny as a travel agent. Of course, he doesn't know it's Manny, but still. The two of them return to Manny's old office, where Hector shows Manny the perks at working at his DOD. He shows Manny a cool Reaper outfit, but more importantly, what he could earn, a golden ticket. And that's when Manny springs his trap and pulls out a Sproutella gun on Hector. The two exchange a few words before one of Hector's special Ugros flies in through the window. Manny shoots the Ugro as Hector runs away with the briefcase full of number 9 tickets. Manny gives chase after Hector and watches him try to leap from one building to another using a huge neon sign. However, his big bones are a little too heavy for the sign and he doesn't quite make the jump. The briefcase does, but he falls down to the street below. Manny eventually makes his way to the other building and is able to finally get everybody's stolen number 9 tickets. He returns to Meche and Glottis at a train station in El Marrow, and Manny sends Meche on her way to give the tickets to all the lost souls. But before she can leave, another one of Hector's Ugros attacks her. She throws the briefcase down to Manny as Glottis runs up to fight the ugly demon crow thing. Olivia then speeds around a street corner in a car and tells Manny to hurry up and get in, and as he does, Olivia and Manny speed away. As they're driving, Manny tells Olivia that they were supposed to have backup from Salvador and the LSA, and then asks where they are. And then Olivia tosses Salvador's skull into the back seat, shocking Manny with the truth that Olivia was evil all along. Salvador is fine, though. I mean, he's already dead. But I guess he really is the head of the LSA now. See, I got another one in there. Oh, man. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Again, I will be here for the rest of the video. I will be. I promise. Oh, man. Man, you really suck. Who keeps saying that? Olivia drives Manny to an old greenhouse filled with flowers, all sprouted victims of Hector. Olivia tells Manny that her new boyfriend, Hector, is waiting for him in the greenhouse, and Manny tells her that she has bad taste in men. That'll get her. That'll get her. Up at the greenhouse, Manny finds a rather happy Hector tending to his favorite flowers and playing a game of she loves me not. The two swap jokes briefly before Manny asks Hector if he's going to do his whole evil monologue thing, to which Hector just turns around and says no, shooting Manny in the chest with a Sproutella gun. Manny stumbles around in shock and pain as Hector giggles with glee. Manny leaves the greenhouse as the flowers begin to spread over his bones, causing him immense pain. Hector happily lets Manny walk around the field of flowers, knowing he's as good as dead. Manny eventually loses all strength and drops to the ground, unable to move. But thankfully, he has some liquid nitrogen in a tiny canister from an earlier puzzle I didn't bring up. Whoops. He uses it on his sprouting wound and is able to stop the growth and save himself. Now free, Manny sneaks down onto the... You know what I just realized? Even though he spread it on the flower, the liquid nitrogen, I can't imagine what that would do to an actual bone. Jeez. Man, oh man. Okay, anyway. Now free, Manny sneaks down to the car where Olivia is and is now searching through her own number 9 ticket. Manny speaks with Salvador in the back seat of the car, and he tells Manny that there's actually a Sproutella gun in the trunk of the car. He tells Manny to tell Olivia that she is now their leader of the LSA, because when he bites down on a Sproutella tooth he has, it will sprout him along with his target. Manny is about to ask which target he's talking about before Olivia pushes Manny out of the way at gunpoint and asks Manny what he and Sal were talking about. She picks up Sal's head and he bites down on the fake tooth, spitting Sproutella in Olivia's face, sprouting himself as well as her. Manny takes the gun out of the trunk, but knows he can't face Hector one-on-one, so he comes up with another plan. Manny runs over to the water supply tank for the greenhouse and shoots it full of Sproutella, which then gets sucked up to the greenhouse and sprayed out of the mist sprinklers. Manny hears Hector screaming as he makes his way up to the greenhouse. As Manny opens the door, Hector explodes into goo and flowers. Hector is now dead. Manny returns to Meche and Glottis back at the train station with all of the stolen tickets. Manny shows the gatekeeper all of the tickets and also his very own ticket that the DoD gave him for ending Hector's reign of terror. He then asks the gatekeeper if Glottis can get a free pass because Glottis is a spirit of the land, but Glottis turns to Manny and tells him that he can't go with him to the next life because he's a spirit of this land. And besides, he wants to look after all the little Glottises and train them up. And with that, he gives his best friend Manny a big hug and thanks him for everything he's done. After that, Manny boards the train with Meche and all the other lost souls and enters into a private cabin with Meche. Meche turns to Manny and asks if they'll be together in the next life as well as this, and Manny replies, telling her that he doesn't know what will happen in the next life, but he's learned to just sit back and enjoy the ride. As they kiss, a wonderful lipless kiss, and enjoy some time together, the train leaves the station and enters into the realm of eternal rest. The end. I feel like I'm always saying this, but I gotta say it again. I didn't do the story justice. There's a lot about this game that I found hard to translate into story without explaining each and every puzzle. You learn more about each character as you progress, and as you do, you'll learn more about the story in turn. But I promise you, it is a good story. A story I love very much. It gives just enough away about each of its characters and the world and items that really make you feel like there's far more going on behind the scenes. It's little details like this that make the world feel bigger than it actually is. If it really does feel like an actual real world, and it's surprising that it can do that with so little, and it does that because of your imagination. I love starting out with Manny at his lowest and watching him personally change through the years. He starts out selfishly, only doing his job to earn off his own personal time so he can move on. He steals clients out of desperation so he can keep his job. He doesn't care about Meche or the other clients, but he warms up to them, learning that this isn't just about him or them, it's about doing the right thing, because if he doesn't, who's going to? I think at the end of the day, that's a beautiful message, and who knows, maybe I'm wrong about it, but that's just the way it looks and to me, and that's what I took from it. I will never forget that Christmas day sitting in front of my PC playing this game. I was fully immersed in the world, the people in it, and the story playing out. I'll never forget laughing at some of the jokes, like, for example, Sal's head being tossed into the back seat. The framing of it with the camera and the music makes it feel terrifying and bad, but just then Sal casually just saying, "Hola, Manuel." It's, we're trained from movies and TV to think, oh my god, it's a decapitated head, Sal's dead, but eventually it's fine because everybody's dead. That's the joke, I'll never forget shedding a very manly tear when Glottis and Manny had to say goodbye. It felt like I was losing a friend as well. You can see a lot of influences for this story as you play it. It really feels like a film noir, and to be completely honest with you, this was the first time I discovered that genre, and I loved it. Along with the blend of Aztec beliefs and Mexican culture, it just makes for something beautiful and unique. There's something wonderful about this game and its story. I may have spoiled the entire game for you, but it's something I strongly believe you should play for yourself. You'll understand what I'm talking about once you're in that world and listening to the people. Like I said, I had to leave out a bunch of like those puzzles and things like that, but there is so many rich characters and locations in this game that I left out, and if you played, you would get to see and enjoy. Again, me telling you this, the whole thing, it really doesn't do it any justice whatsoever. So yes, I love this story, and maybe I am a little bit blinded by love, because I don't see any glaring issues with this, any of the story. And the truth is, even if I did, I don't care. They say games don't teach you anything. Or at least they used to say that when I was younger, but still, I learned about different cultures because of playing this game. I learned about new types of film to watch and music, and new types of genres of music to listen to, and I think that's awesome. So since I genuinely have no critiques, shall we say, I mean, literally my thoughts on the story boil down to I love it, and we'll just end it there. So let's move on over to gameplay rather than listening to me try to think of something. So over to gameplay. Grim Fandango is known as a point-and-click game. Well, some people call them adventure games or point-and-click adventure games. However, I've always called them point-and-click games, and pretty much most of the people I know that, introduced me to this genre just called them point-and-click games. These types of games have a very rich history and have grown a lot since their inception, becoming more streamlined as time went on. You used to have like a lot of commands and prompts, but a lot of these either got merged together or just removed. Grim Fandango came out in the late stages of the point-and-click life cycle, at least at the time. It's become, I think a few games have like resurfaced since then, especially thanks to like indie games and so on, but back then, the point-and-click was coming to an end. And thus, because of how late it was in its cycle, the gameplay literally just boils down to examine an item, pick up an item, use an item, or talk to somebody. That's pretty much it. Normally, these games were controlled with the mouse and, and a few key prompts if you wanted to, like shortcuts. But they were primarily controlled by the mouse, hence the point-and-click name. But Grim Fandango was different. The world of 3D was fast approaching, and a lot of companies believed that no games would really sell unless they were 3D. Now, I'm not sure if the devs wanted this, the 3D, or if the publisher wanted it, or if it was like a mutual thing. But for better or for worse, Grim Fandango was in 3D. Personally, I don't think that this was a bad idea. It let the developers really play around and create things that maybe couldn't be done in 2D. The only issue was the control scheme. The game controlled via tank controls. Gone was the ability to use the mouse, and in its place was the keyboard. You'd control Manny with the arrow keys. You'd pick up items with P, and you'd use items with U, and sprint while pressing the arrow key and shift at the same time. I know that the game does get a lot of grief for this choice in particular, and I'm pretty sure that the creator of Grim Fandango, Tim Schafer, is really sick of hearing about it, and I'm sure people who already know Grim Fandango are already sick of hearing it as well, so I'm not really gonna go into it. You either like it or you don't, and it was for either better or for worse, so we'll just leave it at that. All I'll say is I'm personally not a big fan of the choice. It is extremely clunky, and you often do make mistakes due to the tight spaces or camera angles, but still. Oh, actually, while we're on the topic of tank controls and just movement in general, there was something I wanted to just touch upon really quickly. Now, maybe my memory is just fuzzy after all these years, but I swear controlling Manny wasn't this finicky in the original game. I think it's just a remaster thing, and I'll talk about the remaster versus the original a little bit later, but I just wanted to bring this up now, because there were so many times I'd be walking around places or going up and down some stairs, and just Manny would just bounce off like he'd hit some sort of invisible wall and just run in the opposite direction. I'll put it on screen now, but there was this one spot in Rubikava that gave me so much trouble each and every single time I went through, and it got so bad, I just ended up taking the long way around. So, I put this out to you. If you have the original game, like the original box with the original CD, and you can play it on original hardware, and you've got just like a few minutes to spare, like checking it out, could you boot it up, play it for a little bit, and just tell me if I'm crazy, or was it actually just this bad back in the day and my memory's just awful? But anyway, if you do, thank you in advance. So anyway, let's move on to another point-and-click staple, and that would be the puzzles. So most of the puzzles in the game are pretty straightforward, at least when it comes to point-and-click games. I glossed over a puzzle in the story, and that was breaking into the secret safe in the casino. From that, you may have gathered that you needed to solve a lot of little puzzles to solve a bigger puzzle. This entire game is pretty much that. You solve a lot of little puzzles to solve a bigger puzzle to probably solve an even bigger puzzle above that. You'll need to be smart and pay attention to things characters either say or do, and use that knowledge along with items you've picked up to reach your goal. For example, let's talk about getting the pigeons for Salvador. Once you're on the roof of the DoD, you'll be shown where the eggs are, so you'll walk on over to try and get them. However, when you do, the pigeons will scare Manny away. So now you'll need to figure out how to get the pigeons away from the eggs. Well, if you'd been paying attention, you may have noticed something very small, but very important. You see, when talking to a clown earlier in the game, you'll actually scare him, or you get the option to scare him into popping one of his balloons. When the balloon pops, a pigeon sitting close by on a vendor's tent will fly away. This gives you the knowledge that popping a balloon will scare a pigeon. So, you'll take one of these balloons up to the roof and try to use it, but nothing happens. So, Now you'll need to figure out how to lure the pigeons closer. If you use real-world knowledge, you'll know that, pigeons like bread, so you'll combine the two things together, the bread and the balloon, and then boom, puzzle solved. Boom not being a pun on a balloon exploding, but still, the puzzle is solved. Now all of that is all well and good, and it seems easy enough to wrap your mind around. But what happens when logic fails? Well, that's when you get moon logic. And moon logic is when a puzzle and its answer don't really make sense. And Grim Fandango sadly does suffer from this at times. In fact, a lot of point-and-click games suffer from this, and it's become a bit of a running joke within the adventure game community. The only puzzle that I can think of off the top of my head, which may or may not be classified as moon logic, and may or may not be answered through context or small pieces of dialogue that I just missed and I just don't remember, but bear with me on this. Before meeting with Hector in his casino, Manny needs to get a gun. To get the gun, you need to scare the florist working for Hector, because the florist makes those guns and makes the Sproutella. Okay, simple, I guess. Now, scaring him and finding him are two different puzzles on their own, one of which is solved by sheer dumb luck, I might add. It's like, you send him a pigeon, and then an ogro flies in and eats the pigeon, but leaves a note. It's... Let's not get into that. Let's not get into that. Once the florist is scared back into his shop, he's terrified, and he won't sell you anything, and you can't interact with him, so you need to somehow get him to snap out of his fear. But how do you do that? Items don't work, talking doesn't work, so what works? You need to use your scythe to knock a ball of tape off the little bell above the door, so when the next time you leave and return, the bell rings and that somehow snaps him out of his fear and makes him just give you the gun and the bullets. So, yeah, I guess, whatever. I have never understood this puzzle, and truth be told, I have no idea how I even solved that back when I was a kid. Now, this might be an in-joke, in the game I mean, or a real-life florist joke, or something that I can't even fathom. But in my entire life, I think I've only ever seen that doorbell thing maybe once or twice. So maybe it's like a joke or an observation from before my time. Like maybe it was in the 70s or the 80s and that doorbell thing was just common knowledge. But like I said, I've only ever seen it like maybe once or twice in my life. Or it could just boil down to something that was said earlier in the game and I just forgot, like I said earlier. Or it could just be an example of moon logic, which is why I brought it up here. Either way, the point I'm trying to make here is that sometimes the puzzles are perfectly fine, and heck, sometimes even a little challenging, or sometimes they're just the cause of moon logic and you'll be stuck trying to solve them for days. But I do think Grim Fandango does a good job at never giving you too much at once to deal with, or never gives you too many items to use to solve the puzzles with, so you never really feel like you're lost. Just be prepared for the odd moon logic puzzle here and there. The soundtrack to Grim Fandango is utterly brilliant. There is no denying it. It's a soundtrack I have listened to for years now. No matter which track you're listening to, you can always remember the exact place it plays in the game. The composer, Peter McConnell, has done a wonderful job crafting this highly unique soundtrack. I've never heard anything like it in a video game, and pretty much every single song elevates the scene it's in. Now, I personally can't vouch for if the music blends in or stands out, because since I've listened to it so many times and so often over the years, I can't unhear the music when the game is actually running. And this isn't a bad thing per se. I love this. I often find myself like tapping my foot or humming the tune. I just feel like that was best to point out. Now, as for some of the actual standout tracks, while all of them are brilliant, I gotta give some love to a few of my personal favorites. Mr. Frustration Man, that's a good one. Casino Calavera, Ninth Heaven, Bone Wagon, and my own personal favorite, Compañeros. And I hope I pronounced that right. I probably didn't. Sorry, but that's just to name a few. This is a fun fact, but I actually used to boot up the demo to this game just to listen to some of the songs. And now I say some and not all because it was just a demo and I only got to hear like the same 3 or 4 songs over and over again, but it didn't matter to me at all. I also heard this soundtrack got a vinyl release, and a friend of mine actually pointed it out to me, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. Now, I personally don't own a record player or collect records, but if I did, man, I would buy it in a heartbeat. In fact, I still think about buying it all the time, even though I don't own a record player. In fact, I'd probably just get a record player just to listen to this music. That's how much I love it. Especially if that record was actually signed by Peter himself. I mean, that would just be incredible. That would, like, prize possession #1. Are you kidding me? I mean, so anyway, look. Yes, it's safe to say I love this soundtrack. It's good and I love it dearly. So, yeah. This section has actually been popping up more and more often in my videos, so much so that I guess I might as well just call it a staple of the videos. This, for those of you who don't know, is where I bring up the things that I just couldn't fit anywhere else or just didn't, I don't know, or something, maybe even a few things I was just gonna leave out of the video. But the first thing I'd like to bring up is the voice acting. We've all played games with rather questionable performances, and Grim Fandango, you'll be happy to hear, is not one of those games. The voice acting is among some of the best I have heard, even to this day. Talk about perfect casting. And you know what? It actually makes a lot of sense. A lot of the cast are professional voice actors or well-respected and talented voice actors. I don't know what kind of shady backroom deals were done with the voice director trying to get these people, but whatever it was worth it. Tony Plana, I know I butchered the last name there, I apologize, voices our lovely hero, Manny. I'm not kidding you when I say that this was perfect casting, and is without a doubt a voice from my childhood. You know the type of voice I mean. It's that voice from your favorite cartoon or TV show or movie, the type of voice that brings comfort and memories of a better time. And for me, that is Tony Plana. And again, sorry. But yeah, the voice acting from, and I quite literally mean this, from everybody is nothing short of incredible. Another thing I'd like to bring up is, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but it's the original versus the remaster. For me, this is an interesting topic, and honestly, it could be a little bit, it could get a little bit heated. But there are a few things about it that I like, and a few things I don't. First, I love the addition of the director's commentary. I love hearing about the goings-on behind the scenes and what was actually going through their minds of each person who worked on the game. Personally, I'd actually love the director's commentary thing to be a staple of all games going forward. Maybe it's just me, but I just think it's neat learning about how a song came to be, or how a concept art came to be, what was going through the heads of the developers, and or just the people working on it in general, and how they landed on a particular puzzle or anything, really. I just wish it would be a staple of all games going forward, rather than, having to search out all over the internet for some obscure website where they somehow managed, like somebody with like 2 subscribers on YouTube or whatever, somehow managed to book a role with like Tim Schafer, the director of the game, the big mastermind, but like him, and then on that show he's like, oh yeah, I don't know, I just one day was out at a store and then I saw a skull and I thought to myself, wow, man, I really would love to make a game about dead people. I don't know. Look, the point is, like I said, I just wish it was more common. I really, really do. Official stuff is always the best stuff. The only downside to the commentary in this game is that you actually have to seek it out while playing. And that is cool on its own, but what I would love, because you could miss something, is like in the options menu or in like an extras menu, just the commentary, like each one of those tracks on its own in order of them recording it, just so you can sit down, listen to it, and enjoy it all in one run. Hey, maybe it is in there and I just missed it, but again, I just wanted to point that out. Next is another thing that the remaster does, and that is you can see the concept art. I think that, again, another staple for all games going forward. I think it's just really, really awesome to see all the stunning artwork that was done for this game. And I know a lot of people did work in the, I guess you could just say the art department for this game, but a lot of the concept art I noticed was done by Peter Chan. He did a ton of work for that, and his art is phenomenal. Like, it's incredible, and I don't know what he's up to these days, but I wish him all the best. In fact, man, I tell you what, I wish I could get like a piece of his original art and like an autograph or something, because I think that would be awesome. Look, I just love art, and I wish there was more concept art in games. In fact, I just wish this was a concept in games altogether, like all of these things, the director's commentary, the art, and so on and so forth. Why don't they ever put this in games more often? Anyway. Another fantastic thing that this remaster does is being able to switch between the original game and how it looked and the remaster on the fly. Like, you could just press a button and then whoosh, whoosh, just in and out, whatever you want, play it how you want to, and I think that should be a standard of every single remaster, because, and I know it can be impossible to do, but if it is possible, it should be done. And again, my reasons for this is, it lets those who want to retain the original experience, but just play it, or again, as close as it can be, on, newer hardware, without being forced into a more modern remaster with maybe things that they don't enjoy. Maybe they, like I said, maybe they just wanted to play Grim Fandango as it was, but on a modern computer, and that's all they want. Like, that's what I like, you know what I mean? Like, I think it's great. I think it still looks fantastic today, but that's just me. Now, there is one thing that you may have noticed in the footage, and the remaster only applies to some of the things, like the character models and items. Adding the ability to play with a mouse, that's actually, that should have been there from the start. But from what I understand, the reason that the backgrounds weren't remastered is because a lot of the, or sound files from, no, the music, that's what it was, not sound files. A lot of the original files were just either lost or they couldn't upscale it in any meaningful way from the 3D backgrounds. And a lot of it was actually done with the help of like modders and the people who love Grim Fandango with like a deep passion. So a lot of those people worked in conjunction with Double Fines and were able to create the remaster, but you had to sacrifice some stuff. But still, it's great that Grim Fandango even works in the first place. So that's what I'm thankful for. And that's all I wanted to say about the original versus the remaster. That's it. I don't really have anything more to say. But what I will like to say, and this is the final thing I'd like to talk about in the odds and ends section, is the inventory. I like that we can see Manny grab each item out of his jacket and then, inspect them and all that stuff. However, sometimes when you need a single item, you'll just have to cycle through each item over and over and over again until you find what you need. This makes inventory management feel exceedingly clunky and slow. You do get used to it, but it's always been a slight downside to the game, at least for me. And while on the topic of inventory, I should have put this in the puzzles, but it should be noted that you don't actually combine objects in this game. In some point-and-click games, you do that, like you'll put like a hot dog with a hot dog bun, and then you've got a hot dog. I don't know. This is why I don't make games, but you'll like combine a hot dog and a hot dog bun together, and then you've got a hot dog, and then you can give that to I don't know, somebody. But this game doesn't have that. If you'll have something like you pick up like a bun, like a piece of like bread or whatever, and then that piece of bread is used for a puzzle. And if they do combine, like again for the balloon and the bread, it's combined in game, not in the inventory, to create a new answer to a puzzle, if that makes sense. Anybody who's played point and click games knows hopefully what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Let's move on to final thoughts. Grim Fandango is amazing to me. It's a game that can always put a smile on my face, and while sure there are some puzzles that I'm not a fan of, Cement Marrow Tree, I'm looking right at you, I can still say with full confidence that Grim Fandango is as close to perfect as you can get. Something about the art style, which is complemented by the music, just speaks to me. It made my young mind want to seek out more about the world. I'd listen to Manny say something in Spanish, and I'd actually read, like I'd go down to like a library, or we used to have these were like massive encyclopedic books. These things were like huge and like thick, and there was like 12 of them, and they just had like a ton of encyclopedic knowledge. And I'd often find myself like perusing through these books to like learn maybe more about Aztec culture, or if it was even in there. And, it actually made me want to read books, stuff like that. I also used to teach myself how to write and read better by actually writing down what the characters were saying without subtitles. I'd like write down something, check for spelling errors, and then continue on my way. And then double check the spelling with the in-game, like, there's like a little dialogue script thing that you can look at. That's how I'd check to see if I had spelling errors. I'd even play the game with no volume and just the subtitles only to learn how to read faster. These things may sound pathetic and strange to you, but to me, this was amazing. Now, I'm no deep Grim Fandango fan. I don't know every single Easter egg or behind-the-scenes facts, but what I do know is that the team worked really hard on the game, and sadly, it never ended up selling well, but it did go on to be extremely well loved by those who played it, including myself. Now, I wanted to tell you the end of my story at the beginning of this video. You might be curious if I still have that big box PC copy of Grim Fandango, and the answer is no. It was actually destroyed in a cyclone or hurricane, depending on where you're from. A lot of my old games were, and it broke my heart. I'll never forget coming back to the house and seeing some of the windows, like the screen, like there's like a mesh on the windows. It was off, and there was mud. I don't know how it got on the roof, but there was mud on the roof. and on my bed, and it was a ton of stuff. Sorry, I'm getting choked up. Some stuff was just like trashed, and some stuff had just been sucked out of the room, like just straight out the window. And one of those things, a few of those things, were my games in their big box forms. And I'll never forget seeing a torn corner of Grim Fandango, of the cover of it, just on the ground, torn. And you know, it was sad. You know, I never even found the rest of the game. I never found a lot of my stuff. That's how far away they were blowing. But it still broke my heart to see that. For years after, I couldn't find a copy of the game, and while, yeah, I could have, you know, pirated it, I didn't. It didn't feel right, and it just felt wrong, and a part of me didn't even want to replace the physical copy that I lost. It was special. It was one of a kind. Anybody watching who's lost something like that will understand what I'm talking about. Who knows? Maybe this video will explode, you know, go beyond anything I could possibly imagine, and somehow it makes its way to Tim Schafer himself, and maybe he'll be like, you know, he'll contact me somehow. I have no idea how, but he'll contact me and be like, hey, I saw your video and I found out that you liked a game I made years ago. Here's an autograph, you know, on an actual copy of the boxed game or something like that, or just like an autograph in general. I don't know any of his games. You know, a man can dream, right? I can dream. Actually, that would be kind of nice. Well, not the Tim Schafer thing. That's not going to happen. But maybe this video will get enough views to reach somebody who did work on this game in some capacity. And if that is you and you are watching, thank you from the bottom of my heart and my soul. You created something and were a part of something that really, really changed my life. And I don't say that lightly. It really, really did, and helped me in more ways than you could possibly understand. So thank you. Thank you so much. Like I said at the start of this game, this wasn't a should you play it. It was a you should play it. And I didn't want to rip something I love apart, and I didn't want to try to convince you that this game is fantastic and that you should pick it up. I mean, you should, but I didn't want to convince you. I just wanted to share something I loved with you. And I'm sorry it took me so long to get out a new video, but like I said, we all just get a little bit down, and, you know, it sucks. And sometimes we just need to remind ourselves that life and the things in it can be wonderful. Or heck, sometimes we just want to remember a simpler time of sitting down at the computer, playing through a demo of a game that would forever change our lives. Now, before I move on, there was something I wanted to say, and it's something important, that I'm actually the editing Lycan from the future, and I just found out that my recordings for the next few moments of this video were actually completely screwed up. I don't know what happened, but it gives me an opportunity to update you on something that happened very recently while I was actually editing this video, and that is I'll be moving apartments, and it's going to happen very soon, and I'm sure anybody who's moved before knows how chaotic and hectic it can be, especially when you got other things going on. So the next video was going to be full throttle. It will not be full throttle. I don't think I'm going to have time to finish the script and then edit the video and then get it out before I have to, disassemble everything in, the computer and stuff and then move it and then get internet situated in the new house and so on and so forth. So I don't know what the next video is going to be, but there will be a new video, and it will be scheduled for roughly the time that I'm getting situated in the new house. So you'll still get something, but it won't be up to date. So like if somebody was to join the channel now, I probably wouldn't get a chance to thank you in the next video, but in the video after that, I'll be thanking you. So, you know, don't put me on a pyre. Don't put me on a pyre, please. I also wanted to say that I'm trying to go as fast as I can, that I was playing Arcanum, for those of you who did want an update on that, and because I was feeling down, I was looking back over the footage and over the notes I had wrote, and I realized my heart wasn't in it, and I wasn't really paying attention to what was happening in the game, or, you know, any of the, you know, how to play it and all that stuff. And so I've just decided to essentially scrap my game, scrap my notes, and then just start again, because it deserves that. It really does deserve it, and it doesn't deserve to be, if you'll forgive me, half-assed. So that's what's happening next with Arcanum, and yeah, I think that's about it. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Family Dog, Anya the Khajiit, David Welch, sorry David, TJ and Jack, Aaron, Amelia, Pizza Rolls, Adam Myers, and the Elder Irish. You lovely folk are the ones who have joined my channel, and thanks to you, I can, yeah, keep keep these videos coming. Hopefully. Hopefully. So thank you very much, and I'll also give a thank in advance if anybody joins the channel from the uploading of this video to the next time I can thank you. So thank you in advance. Thank you in advance. Oh, and I'm also still working on Patreon. I know a lot of people have been asking about that one, so Patreon is still being worked on. There you go. That's it. That's all I wanted to say. Now, anyway, I have to take off. I have to upload this video and get started on the very next one. And that's it. Peace out, pals.